have a perfect nutrition. You know, you may have the best diet in the world, but if you're in a toxic relationship, that's not going to help you. So similar as you said, James, I look at all of the facets of the circle of life, you know, which is, are the environment, how is your job, how are the stresses of your work, do you have family stresses, etc., where do you live? So I really, and of course the emotional, and from a mindset perspective, very much the you know, what is your connection to self? What awareness do you have in your control of what is happening in your life? So I very much appreciate what you've shown. Thank you.
Adi, would you like to add to that with some of your thoughts and perspectives around what holistic well-being is?
From my take, I think James has briefed it, you know, very clear. But from my perspective, right, I look at it like mental health problem, stress, you know, well-being can exist independently. You know, people can experience work-related stress and physical changes such as high blood pressure without having anxiety, you know, without having depression or other mental health problems. You know, they can also have anxiety and depression without experiencing stress, right? So for me, the key differences later on is between them are their cause and the way we treat it. Yeah, that's my take on that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's great that we're all on the same page about how we can't compartmentalize well-being, just like we can't compartmentalize the areas of an individual's life. And what happens in the life of an individual is going to have an impact in the life and the potential to thrive of an organization. Would you all agree about that? That the well-being of the individual translates to the well-being of the organization. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there. And this idea, this principle lends its name to the theme of the summit, Transform and Thrive Together. And I love the theme of the summit, Transform and Thrive Together. That really kind of focuses us on the need to move through and beyond the challenge together and to transform whatever difficulties we're facing, both individually and collectively. So my question to you, and anyone can unmute and answer the question, is how can a focus on holistic well-being help organizations transform and thrive in the current climate we find ourselves in? Because we really are in a totally, I mean, the word unprecedented has been thrown around so much in the past 365 days. And I think we'd all agree, we find ourselves both as individual and organizations in a very unprecedented situation. But from that lies a lot of opportunity for transformation, growth, change, and thriving. So how can we leverage that where we are right now to help organizations transform and thrive with a focus on holistic well-being? Who'd like to share some perspectives or insights? Edda?
Hello again.
Okay.
I will jump in there. Yeah, I think this is a real opportunity to really approach something which is actually an issue which is not just about the pandemic, but it's something that has been, shall we say, growing steadily over time. I think, you know, if we're talking about stress and burnout and illness and, you know, long-term health, particularly chronic health, we know that, you know, 75% of the illnesses that people are dying of are not just are preventable. So I think what this has revealed, the pandemic has revealed an opportunity for us really to support, go into the organizations and say, look, you've been talking about the value of employees. Now we need to address this. because they contribute to your success. You know, good health of employees, they're more engaged, they're more motivated, they're more focused, they contribute to the overall organization. So I think it's a real opportunity to approach something which has been a problem for some time. Thank
I
you.
could not agree with you more, Era. And it really is, I mean, other than the moral imperative to do right by the people that support your bottom line as an organization, is that it becomes a total win-win. And anytime you focus your energies and your attention on a win-win situation, the outcome can only be one that is positive and will help all the stakeholders thrive and fulfill their desired outcomes and objectives. So I see lots of people shaking their heads and smiling, which is wonderful. I'm thrilled that we're all on the same page. Yep. Gentlemen, would you like to add your take on that?
If I may.
Yes, please, James. Go ahead. Yeah. Thank you.
I guess it's also important to note that, particularly with HR professionals in this forum, that the promotion of holistic well-being is not necessarily a new concept. As a matter of fact, if you've been able to attend several HR summits in the previous years, promotion of holistic wellness or well-being has actually been pushed by a lot of professional HR practitioners. It is only during this time of the pandemic that actually it has been given a proper spotlight, and for us to be able to see exactly the importance of addressing holistic wellness for our vital resource, which is the people that we have. Later on, if we have time, I actually have some data presented by well-known organizations such as Johns Hopkins, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Harvard Gazette, and even the Canadian Mental Health Association, of how important it is to focus as well on the holistic well-being of employees and how exactly that translates even in monetary terms of how is it beneficial to the different organizations as well. So it's integral actually that in this point in time that organizations should not only adapt promoting holistic wellness, but should actually be should be an integral part of the day-to-day operations, particularly in this new normal that we have.
James, thank you for bringing up the data and the statistics. And I don't want to speak for all, but I, for one, would be very interested in whatever data you have to share. So if there's anything pertinent, if you have like 2 or 3 pertinent pieces of data that you'd like to share, I know that would be of great interest to all our audiences. Thank you. Thank you for doing that research.
Sure. As we go along, I have a couple. If you would bear with me, I'd love to show them to you also.
Thank you, James.
Also how we would be able to actually incorporate it to different programs in the organization and how we did it in our organization as well.
So James, I'm sorry, I might have misunderstood. Would you like to share that later or now?
Once we get to the part about how we incorporate it to the different organizational settings, I'd be more than glad to show it to you.
Very good, very good. And if for whatever reason the flow kind of deviates from what we had agreed on earlier, just please remind me, because I think this would be very beneficial for everyone. Yeah, wonderful. Yes. So let's move on and discuss more in specifics. How do holistic well-being initiatives specifically contribute to the individual employees, and how specifically does it benefit the organization? And I know, ID, that you are very passionate about this subject. So if you can share, please, from your perspective, what are some specifics around benefits for the individual employee and the organization with holistic well-being? Can you unmute yourselves because we can't hear you? Thank you.
How about now? Hello?
That's great. Thank you.
All right, cool. Okay, so to answer that question, right? So let's start with feelings. Feelings of well-being are the fundamentals to the overall health of an individual. Enabling them to successfully overcome difficulties and achieve what they want out of life. Yeah. So a good mental health and well-being mean different things to different people. Yeah. And every person has to find their own way to a life that is meaningful and satisfying for them. Again, hierarchy Maslow, the needs of human being. Yeah. So the well-being of employee can be viewed from many perspectives, but the most common well-being perspective measured are the well-being related to mental and physical health, interaction with others' well-being, and well-being related to job satisfaction, and usually connected to an employee happiness in an organization. Yep. And when you have an employee that happy to work in organization, so guess what, right? They are able to develop their potential, be productive and creative. You can build positive relationship with others, better cope with stress, and make a meaningful contribution. Having said that, vice versa, poor mental health and well-being can negatively affect employees in terms of their job performance, yeah, productivity, engagement, and communication between co-workers or colleagues. Even can goes into physical capability and daily functioning. Yeah. So workplace wellness program can identify those at risk and connect them to treatment and put in place support to help people reduce and manage stress. So again, I want to address another benefit. By organization addressing mental health issues, employers can reduce healthcare costs for their businesses and employees. There are research about it. Yeah. And to close my answer in a nutshell, the 5 benefits that I can say is we can have a healthy culture environment. Yep. We can have higher productivity. Yeah, we can improve. This is most important. Improve individual health and safety. Enhance company reputations, and last, financial savings. So I guess that's my answer. Over to you, Faye. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. That was very comprehensive. Thank you. And Anna, I really like how you refer to yourself as a well-being, not well-being champ, provocateur. I love that. I absolutely love that. I've never heard that before, but that's very suiting, very fitting to you. So, Anna, I'm really interested on your thoughts around how organizations can provide the most effective holistic well-being approach for their employees.
Thank you very much, Faye. Yes, well, my approach is really that, we need to ensure that we engage the employees as well as the employers rolling out something. And one of the things, the projects that I'm going to be running this year with a company is actually employing design thinking. Design thinking is very, very much used now in the business world. It's very current at the moment to solving business problems. So why not use this approach for health, for approaching, trying to engage and really let the voice of the employees be heard. So just for those who don't know what are not familiar with the design thinking, it's a human-centered approach to problems and how to build solutions. And the stages, it simply has 4 stages. It has a discover stage so that you can interview individuals and find out exactly what is the problem. And then it has a stage where you define that problem. And then you have a stage where you have a prototype and a real problem, test of the problem and a validation of that prototype. You have ideation, you create a prototype and you validate it. What is the benefit? It means that not just going in with a program which is kind of given to employees, but they get a say. It also means you can use this approach to test the temperature of the organization, of the organization's health, and where is it at the moment? How do people feel? What is going on? Because that's really what we want to know. Yes, we've got lots of statistics out there, but how are people feeling right now? What do they actually need? What can we actually bring to them? So this would be, for me, an approach to actually ensure that the voice of the employee is heard. And there's various techniques, of course. We can do interviews, and get them to input on challenges, and etc., to really get the information. So this, for me, is something that I'm going to be performing this year with an organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Era. That sounds, so I've never heard of design thinking, and it sounds like a very relevant paradigm for where we are right now, both as organizational cultures and with the culture at large. So thank you for that. And leading from design thinking into an area that I know James is very passionate about. James, I'm really interested about your thoughts about how organizations can craft or create responsive initiatives that promote holistic well-being in company setups or office setups. And maybe you can speak about that as both in live in person and also in virtual and remote settings, if you have access to that information.
Great. So I'll be showing some slides for me to be able to show you what our organization did to address those 6 different dimensions for holistic well-being. And at the same time, I'll be talking about the certain benefits for them as well, all right? So let me start with this one. Okay, let's start with the physical aspect of it. As you can see, the benefits of having physical activities in the workplace. I just want you to focus on the different studies that were presented. And as a matter of fact, one of the benefits of having an active physical activity in the workplace, it is based on studies. It actually lowers your healthcare costs that you spend per employee. I think IED was able to touch up a little bit on this. But on top of that, another study that shows that actually there is significant improvements in health outcomes, where in turn actually is beneficial for the organization. And what is that? There's reduced absenteeism, reductions in sick leave, and positive returns on investment. So how were we able to translate that in our organization? First, because we are online, we actually had our online fitness classes. We hired a fitness coach, and then wherever they may be in the work setting, we have an online group exercise for our staff. We also have, because we have wellness and health coaches in the organization, we tapped on them to be health coaches for our staff, talking about the 5 modifiable lifestyles, including sleep, food, nutrition, and hydration, right? In our pantry, we have cleaned out the pantry and made sure that whatever food is there is actually promoting healthy choices. We also encouraged everyone to put in apps in their phones or their smartwatches to actually remind them to stand or stretch every day. This is not our staff. This is just a picture that I got out. But the idea actually is for us to send out reminders. We have email blasts that we send out, not necessarily every day, but at least once a week, to remind people that, you need to walk about and stretch and don't sit too long in front of your computers. And then also, we have ergonomic furniture that we use. We have adjustable desks for people to use. And then we now started actually forming our fitness clubs online. But ideally, we are starting with our running club, and we also have what you call our Biggest Loser Club. So the Biggest Loser Club is where teams form, and then collectively they monitor the weight loss that they have, and then they add it up together. And then we have a special prize for those teams with the most weight loss. Now for mental wellness, all right, we have to first actually be able to address mental wellness as well, particularly in this pandemic. As a matter of fact, if you notice some studies that have been conducted last year, mental wellness problems and issues rose significantly in the past year. As a matter of fact, the Centers for Disease and Control Prevention said that poor mental health and stress actually negatively affects these four aspects. And what are those? Job performance and productivity, engagement with one's work, communication with coworkers, and physical capability and functioning. Now, we have to address what exactly is mental health, because there is a stigma that when you say a person has mental health concerns, it's automatically equated to mental illness. We have to understand that mental health concerns or problems is not the same with mental illness. As a matter of fact, the Canadian Mental Health Association said that mental health encompasses our emotions, thoughts, and feelings, and ability to solve problems and overcome difficulties. Experiencing concerns in those areas is not necessarily the same thing as having a mental illness. All right. So what did we do in our organization to address mental wellness as well? So since we have doctors in our organization, we have consultation time that we scheduled with our staff for them to act as our counselors for mental support. HR was also on hand to be able to serve as mental wellness advocates. We also did a campaign, an education campaign, an email blast that we distributed different materials, brochures, flyers, and even videos for employees to be able to identify signs and symptoms of poor mental health. All right. And also we crafted our own mental health assessment tools that are available for employees on the cloud, that they can do a self-assessment and then they can talk to us, and we have the available counselors on hand. We also have webinars that we conducted. Those are online seminars that actually talks about depression and stress management. We even had breathing exercises and meditation as well, right? And then lastly, if there are any concerns that we as on our end cannot address, then we refer them, of course, to professionals as needed. But overall, the idea really is for us to cultivate and to have a culture of positive mental attitude in the whole organization. As what appears in American Journal of Epidemiology, authored by Harvard T. Chan School of Public Health in the Harvard Gazette, it actually says that the power of positive thinking works. And as you can see here, it says that the study found that women who were optimistic had a significantly reduced risk of dying from several major causes of death, including cancer, heart disease, stroke, respiratory disease, and infection over an 8-year period compared with women who were less optimistic. Sadly, I was looking for a study for men, but I could not find one. But so far, I think this transcends both men and women at this stage. No? Now, for emotional wellness, you can see here that we can also promote emotional wellness in the organization. How? By actually having regular, fair, and supportive constructive criticism performance evaluations. Here in the organization also, we conduct corporate social responsibility activities where we actually endorse employee engagement activities that support altruism. So we have outreach programs, medical outreach, and we have also the GK or the Gawad Kalinga, where we actually, our medical practitioners go out and build homes or houses for the homeless. We also have opportunities for employees to connect, which we call the Kapihan session. It's Filipino for coffee sessions, where we have an informal group discussion just to see how everyone is doing. We also have introduced avenues for employees to be heard. Besides the Kapihan, we also have a drop box. And as a matter of fact, we award and reward people for good suggestions. We train managers, we create professional programs, and then we have recognition awards as well. And then same goes with emotional wellness. As a matter of fact, the Johns Hopkins Hospital has also released a study that unforgiveness actually affects the health of an individual. And unforgiveness actually changes the heart rate, the blood pressure, the immune response, and even affects depression, heart disease, and diabetes, among other conditions. And so it says here that the good news is with forgiveness, according to this medical organization, that there are other positive attributes to it, which is actually calms stress, lowers the risk of heart attack, and so on. So I will just be breezing through all of these. It's pretty lengthy, but what I'm trying to say is, if you address all of these different factors, there is a great return of investment when you really focus on addressing the 6 dimensions of the individual. That includes even spiritual wellness. Now, I have to be very careful about this specific aspect, because this is not about religion. It's not about promoting one religion better than the other. It's actually about inclusivity. It's about people being able to express their faith and being welcome to express their faith in the organization. So you could be Muslim, you could be Christian, you could be an atheist, you're all welcome, and it's all inclusive in the organization per se. All right, so with the slides, I'm actually willing to share it with all of you, together with social wellness as well, and everything else. But here, let me just skip to this part for the last part, which is actually how can it be translated in the organization, all right? So the whole point is, you first have to study and understand the pain points for your employees, all right? What I'm suggesting here, there's no specific formula that will work for all organizations. You have to understand specific pain points. You have to have constant check-in sessions to see how your employees are doing. You have to spot the signs. And then you do not have to spend thousands or millions for the programs. You can start by looking at presently what resources you have, and you can use that, all right? So it doesn't need money. You just have to look around and see what you can readily improve. And then, and even when they take on leaves, you can encourage them by spreading out their leaves rather than lumping them together. And then having an open door policy, have a culture of productivity over presenteeism, and then of course, overall, the culture that supports and promotes holistic wellness. So thank you for bearing with me. I know it's a lot to digest right now, but what I wanted to really stress on is the aspect of actually being able to focus on all of these. And then again, the return of investment for organizations is not just quantifiable, not just quantitative, but qualitative as well. Thank you.
Thank you, James. That was really thorough, and you touched upon some really important ideas that I'd like to summarize. You talked about the return of investment to the organization, but of course, as we've established, to the individual employee. You also talked about the distinction between mental health is not mental illness, and that is an area that I know a lot of us are interested in, and we will touch upon that in a few moments. You also gave us a really good toolbox with some concrete actionable ideas that organizations can start thinking about and playing with and applying right away in order to start supporting the holistic well-being of their staff and their teams. And I love that your toolbox is varied and diverse across those 6 dimensions and those 6 pillars of wellness. So thanks for that, James. And would anyone else like to add about what they have seen, what they have witnessed in terms of concrete ideas and strategies and practices that are working to support holistic well-being on their end?
I would love to come in, if I
Thank
may,
you, wellness provocateur.
on some of James's topics, because
Please.
I feel so passionately about what he's just said. Several things, if you don't mind, James. What you think, the thing about mental health? Yes, yes, yes. Let's have a conversation about this, because mental health, if when people have a heart problem and they need to put a pacemaker in, they do so, and no one has an issue about it. So why should we not talk about addressing mental health in the same way? People need support, they need understanding. You know, people are afraid to say, I'm struggling at work, I have a burnout. Why? Because they expect that there's going to be a stigma attached to it. And this is why I want to do this approach with the design thinking, because I want to hear the voice of people. I want people to say, yes, I'm struggling. Yes, I need to talk about this, because they're stuck at home right now and they need to be able to express that, hey, I need help. I mean, if they had blood pressure, if they had diabetes, they would get help. So why should they not get help for this? So I love that you've expressed that, and that's a strong point for me. The other point is I have been studying mindset now for this is my 4th year of studying mindset and meditation. And so when we're talking about holistic, we are talking about the whole thing, including our connection inside and out. Now, you touched on religion and you said, oh, I have to be careful about this. This is for me another way that we need to have a conversation. Being holistic, being spiritual connected is not religion. It's not religion. We can be Muslim, we can be Christian, we can be Buddhist. It's not about religion. You can call it what you will, call it connected to your spirit, connected to your energy. People can call it what they want, connected to the soul, but it's about being connected to whatever you want. I call it my spirit, my energy, because we're disconnected. And I know more and more research is showing the powerful impact of meditation. And I know I could give you examples, many examples from the tribe that I'm part of. There is a woman who had cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer at Christmas in December of last year. And through no drug treatment, no at all, through pure meditation and positivity and a will to say, you know what, I'm going to get well. That cancer has regressed. She went into the doctor in January and the cancer is showing signs of regression. The doctors are going, what have you done? What are you doing? And she says, nothing, meditation. Every single cell in our body is connected, and now it's been shown through the great technologies that we have of biotechnologies. They can reveal that every single cell in our body is connected to our thoughts, So when we are focusing on positivity from the outside inside, or rather the other way, outside inside out, we can be in control of determining our health. So very important topics that you said. And this is why, as I say, bringing it back to the topic of the focus on the workplace, this is why the holistic approach, the whole, is so essential. Thank you.
I love the amount of passion, the level of passion and commitment to these issues in this group, because, these conversations have to be happening. And as we normalize the topic and as we normalize the conversations, then that changes perspectives and the possibility to think differently about these issues. And mental health and mental well-being was something that was on the agenda for later on. But since we're on this topic, if we can just take it one step further, and if we could just consider, I think we all agree that, yes, there is a stigma around mental health. And Anna, I totally hear you. I've been there myself, and I hear it in the clients that I coach. When I was going through my burnout and through my mental health challenges, I was praying and hoping that I would have a physical illness, because that would allow me an opportunity to reset and recharge and a little bit of support and compassion. Whereas the other issues were not, I didn't feel they were permissible. And then, of course, that creates a little bit of a negative loop, right? Because the more disconnected we feel and the more marginalized we feel, the more the stress hormones accelerate, and then it becomes a little bit of a vicious circle and a vicious cycle. So my question to you is this: we are all on the same page that the stigma around mental health needs to shift if the conversations and the experience of mental health in organizations is going to shift. So whose responsibility is it? Where does the responsibility begin with normalizing mental health? Is it with the culture, or is it with the individual, or is it with the organization? And of course, there are no right or wrong answers here. Let's just have a discussion. I'm interested in your thoughts. ID, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, cool. Can, no problem. So yes, there's no right or wrong thought on this, right? But I think this is a no secret that majority of us, even adults, spend at least 1/3 of their lives at work. Even as remote work currently become a norm, a common, full-time jobs inevitably shape a person's health habits, which can either help or impact performance. So from my point of view, I think organization or employers play an important role and have a significant stake in helping to shape their employees' physical and mental health habits. It comes from the organization. But having said that, there's no right or wrong on this. But I would also like to address or emphasize that culture is a very powerful tool to encourage healthy habits. And I think many companies that I worked previously have start leverage culture to help employees become more active, practice a health diet, for example, exercise, all these well-being activities. So I think companies are finding ways to successfully and cost efficiently promote better health in the workplace by creating a culture that values mental health needs and of course provide support without stigma. I love that word actually. I have the point of that stigma. Yep. Thanks.
Let me unmute myself. I was speaking to a blank screen. Adi, thank you. Eda or James, would you like to add some of your thoughts or impressions around this very important conversation of moving away from the stigma of mental health? And where does the responsibility lie?
Sure. It's actually a good question. Based on experience, in the organizations that I've consulted as well, there are some organizations that do promote holistic well-being in organization, and sometimes you even present them with different avenues. But one thing I notice is that, again, because of this mindset that when you present something that has to do with mental health, there's a negative connotation about it. It's either you're weak, or you have problems, or you're not capable of doing your work. So in my experience, what actually worked is, besides providing them the avenue to be able to approach us, what worked best is for actually the leaders or the proponents for holistic well-being to actually reach out to the employees. What we did, because the response wasn't that as what we have expected, we actually set appointment dates and appointment times for specific employees for us to actually sit down and ask how they are. And you will notice that these people before, who were very apprehensive of approaching us, but when you give them the time and effort and you show them that you really want to listen, they have a lot of very constructive and beautiful things that they can actually say. So going to your question of whose responsibility it is, I think based on my experience, I think it would be best for the proponents of the holistic well-being and organization to take the initial step to reach out to the employees, to break that barrier and that mindset that, if I go and consult with someone about what I'm going through, whether I'm stressed or burnt out, I won't be branded as a non-performing employee, or that I'm a red flag in the organization. So I think it would really be best for those pushing for the culture that you would want to build to reach out to the employees, rather than waiting for the employees to come and talk to me whenever you're free. So that's my take on it.
Thank you for your take. James, I think one of the positives that has come out of the past 365 days with the pandemic and the COVID restrictions, I think is refocusing everyone's attention on what health and well-being means with capital H and capital W, and that understanding that health is beyond what is physical and what is in the body. And I think the events of past year have really focused our awareness on the need to attend to mental health and mental well-being. I feel that there's a little bit of a momentum that's there in play that I think can be very beneficial for organizations and personal departments and individuals to start leveraging. But I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts around, because I know this is an area that you're very passionate about as well, around whose responsibility is it to normalize mental health and mental well-being?
Absolutely. Thank you again for the floor. I have very much agree with James. I think it's, if we're talking purely about the workplace, it needs to be made, shall we say, not normal, but certainly it needs to be created. There needs to be a space created for employees to feel that they can talk about it. And the first thing, again, this is going to be my approach, talking to companies, is that they need to, the companies first need to understand what is going to be the benefit for them. And for example, from purely business terms, because we're talking business here, and according to the World Health Organization, 2 of the most common mental health conditions, depression and anxiety, cost the global economy $1 trillion per year. And you know, so if companies are going to be focused on their bottom line, fine, but they need to understand that the other thing which is going to contribute to that is the health well-being of their employees. So it's a key component for the success and for the, you know, for the economy. So in answer, I would say, yes, let there be champions. And this is something that I would like to do when I go to, for example, start talking to HRs, is to let them understand what will be the benefits of bringing this into your company. Because, you know, long-term illness, people off sick, you've got, you know, people leaving, people, you know, the chronic impact, the impact of stress, as we know, as we're learning more and more, is not just the mental, it affects the physical too. You know, my own example, it put me physically in a clinic for pain for, you know, for 5 weeks. You know, it translates into the body, and the body will translate into sickness. As in Ayurveda, dis-ease. So I think let the leaders, let's impact the leaders. From my perspective, is impact the leaders in the organization. And I would like to support those to then bring it out so that people can start to feel, yes, I have a safe space. I can go and talk to somebody, a trusted person who will get my message across. The World Health Organization defines health as the process of enabling individuals and communities to increase control over the determinants of health and thereby improve their health. So we want to enable individuals in organizations to take control. Yes, they have responsibility themselves, of course, to take care of their own physical and mental well-being. And this is why I think bringing mindset in meditation, etc., is really important too. But we need to be able to give them ways to support them to do so. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. It seems like there's such an opportunity right now through this crisis and through the challenges to really do something that's going to set a totally new tone and a totally new culture and climate, not just in organizations, but also within the culture at large. And I like to think that of these opportunities as a pathway for transformation. And in keeping with the theme and the spirit of this conference, which is about transforming and thriving together, and to kind of end this or wind this down on a really positive note, I'm just really interested in hearing from you about what you see are either positive opportunities or success stories. You know, positive examples of holistic well-being in the workplace working well. That is a source of encouragement that where we're headed to is actually really a place where we're going to be thriving individually and collectively. So who would like, just unmute yourselves, who would like to start first? I see so many smiles and I love to, I wish I could smile, I wish you could see my smile as well, but I hope you can hear my smile because the smile is very much there.
So let me kick it off, Faye, if you don't mind.
Thanks, James.
On the HR perspective, for those HR practitioners out there, we have what you call the HR analytics. And this is like our dashboard in how we actually get the feel of the organization, of our employees, and what we actually measure and see how our programs are impacting the employees in general. And one thing that we noticed, which I also pointed out earlier, was that it has a tremendous impact on the healthcare costs that the organization carries. It has been proven that it actually decreases the number of sick leaves per year taken by the employees. It also improved the attrition rate of the organizations that have been promoting holistic well-being. It improved attendance and absenteeism. It improved tardiness. And just an overall positive outlook of the organization. What Ira said earlier, I cannot agree enough that she said that our cells are actually linked to our mind and what we think and our thoughts. As a matter of fact, in the medical field, there are numerous studies that would tell you that there are a lot of sicknesses and symptoms and all that are related because of stress, because of over fatigue. And there are even a lot of sickness that are actually caused by mental stress. And all of these are actually proven even in the medical field as well. So what Ira has been saying all along, and I agree 100%, is that actually we first have to understand the true value that promoting holistic well-being in the organization brings. I think from that perspective, that's where you will be able to actually craft holistic well-being programs for your employees, for your organization, that would truly address the pain points that you have. And then eventually, consequently, will have your ROI for the organization in general.
James, thank you. ID or Era, would you like to chime in with your thoughts about opportunities or some success stories, some positive examples of holistic well-being playing out in a way that is really impacting transformation and a thriving culture in the organization?
Maybe I can share. Sorry, ID here.
Thank
Okay,
you.
okay,
Thank you,
all right,
ID. Yes, go ahead.
I'm not unmute. Okay. Maybe I can just share some, not a significant success story, but a behavior change. Behavior change in terms of this holistic mental health and well-being. So again, I'm a person that always look at the fundamentals of any issues or even pain point, right? So what we did, we realized that employees didn't aware or not aware on this topic. So what we did, we tried to train our managers, to do a very simple activities, which is a chat or informal chat with the employees and talk about mental health and well-being. Yeah. So what we did from the learning perspective, we provide managers with a training, to help them so-called recognize the signs and symptoms of, for example, stress and depression in their team members, and encourage them to seek help or giving advice. We also train our managers to have some sort like effective or regular conversation about health and well-being with their employees. This is a very small and maybe become a secondary activities for some of the leaders, because they might think, this is not so important. We must focus on operations or businesses, right? But we keep telling them, we keep training them. This activities is quite impactful, because when we provide the right training, it can provide the managers with the capability and the confidence to support their workers around mental health. It's a very small activity. I can see when we did that, when we keep repeating that, they start to meet up with the employees and not just talk about work. No, they talk about health. They talk about maybe social lifestyle. That kind of thing. So at the end of the day, because managers is an important role, because they are the source of all information for the employees. So maybe it's not a very big ROI, but for me, a behavior change, start and it will give impact in the future. Yep.
I could not agree more, ID, that incremental change really is the best way forward for lasting change. And you've got to start somewhere. And no step is too small or insignificant. So we should celebrate all changes and all steps that are taken in the right direction. So thank you for that. And Edda, any thoughts that you would like to share around positive success stories, positive examples, some opportunities around holistic well-being in the workplace?
Is that a question to AD, or can I jump
to
in?
You. Yes, to you. Yeah, to you.
I can jump in. Yeah,
yes,
well, I did some research around this, and I can give you some examples. For example, Gallup, the researchers at Gallup found that employees with high levels of well-being were 45% more likely than other employees able to adapt to change. Now, that's really important when we consider the situation we're in right now, where employees are being faced with constant change because of the pandemic. Being able to be flexible and not be stressed out, that's a really, for me, a very important finding. And in the journal published by the American of Medical Association, they found that focus programs in companies on meditation reduced stress. Another one, a literature review of 43 studies on the effectiveness of health coaching in companies found that 84% of the studies reported improved health outcomes in employees. And another report, employee wellness programs brought employees together and built camaraderie. This is from another study. And that's also important, because people are at home right now and they're working, and some of them, we're hearing about isolation, the problems of isolation. So a study that a program is, when we're thinking of holistic again, not just the physical, the mental, the emotional, but social isolation, something which can bring people together and feel that they're not just out there on their own. So I think there is evidence out there, and this is just a small research that I did to show that there's real examples, concrete examples, tangible examples that employees can see of the benefit of going forward with this approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Edda. And as we continue to share these concrete nuggets and the evidence of what's working, that kind of provides seeds for the collective, that this works and that there is a place for this in the new normal, whatever the new normal is. And that provides a lot of momentum for us to continue doing the things that all of you are doing and involved in, that we know are impactful positively for both the individual and the organization, for transformation and thriving to happen on both levels, because they're not mutually exclusive, as we've established through our conversation. And our conversation has been so wonderful and so engaging. And I think everyone would agree that we could go on indefinitely talking about this topic, because we're all so committed to this and there's so much to cover and to talk about. But in the interest of time, I just want to turn it to our moderators to see if there's any questions that maybe our experts can answer for any of our attendees.
Thank you, Faye. Actually, there is no question at the chat board, but there is one, Dennis, who posted, people think that they will be judged by others if they start talking about their mental health challenges. They prefer to stay silent instead, and that they cannot be healed.
Yep.
So this is one of the points that was discussed earlier, and I think um, ID
Yep.
and I think Ira
Yep.
um, touched on how to help bring out those people who really are suffering, not just because uh, they have the mental illness, but even if they wanted to talk, are feel suppressed.
Yep. So, so if I can add on, and so
Yes.
that is a very good question. Again, the fundamentals, right? I guess you guys are familiar with this kind of field. I'm afraid to admit I'm not aware, what people say about me. In Asia country, you always think about what people will say about me when I talk about my health issue, right? I'm busy, all right? So even if you look at this context, like some of them know that stress can impact their productivity, but do they want to admit it? Do they know what to do or where to get help? So that's the question that we need to answer, and we need to look at the fundamental actions, how to tackle it. Yep. So again, look at the negative and positive perspective of mental health and well-being that still surround in the workplace. So from my point of view, in terms of learning, so I'm always go back one step behind and talk about how we can educate our employees first. Educate our employees, create that awareness first, because there are phrase, right? What is the phrase? You can lead a horse to water, but you
But
can't make him drink, right? We can have a very high level of program well-being, but if the employee itself don't want to commit, so it's different story. So my point of view from learning, we educate them. Second, again, we train our managers, train our leaders, because this is our role model in the organizations.
yes.
When the employees see our leaders live very healthy, we feel like, okay, this is my leader, my boss, my managers, keeping live healthy, right? So a third one for me is promoting learning, because in terms of learning, right? When we talk about learning, when people learn new skill, yep, it will so-called improve our mental well-being by boosting self-confidence or raising
True.
self-esteem, helping you to build a sense of purpose, for example, or helping you connect with others. So that is my 3 point in terms of how we can help to create awareness, how to reduce that stigma within the employees. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
As Ira mentioned earlier, our leaders really need to start creating those safe space so the people can slowly try to move forward. So, with that, we would like to thank you, uh, to thank the distinguished panelists, Miss Faye, Mr. James, Miss Ira, Mr. AD, for promoting holistic well-being in the workplace and for informative discussion on mental health. Um, Awareness of holistic well-being gained more traction after what happened last year. So I think I speak for everybody when I say that we all hope that it continues to grow, and that not just grow in a sense in terms of awareness, but also for each organization to identify it as something that it if they continue to grow it in their organization, they can totally or holistically say that or their organization is healthy, not just in a monetary sense, but also in the human resources and the total aspect sense of being healthy. Yes. So with that, I think the discussion has gone beyond the time limit. Again, thank you very much. And we hope to see you in other events of CTS. We hope
Yep.
that our viewers have also gained as much insight that they can use into their organization and in their own growth into identifying and being aware of holistic wellness and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
It's a
you so
pleasure.
much. And before
Bye.
we end, thank you for all our panelists again, Faye, Heidi, Ira, and James. And thank you. We will just announce for tomorrow's session and some reminders as well. Our Faye, are you ready to share your wheel of names? We'll be
Yes,
giving
po.
away some prize. So please share your wheel of name and choose who wins the next prize. So for today's session, we're giving away a 45-minute session on one-on-one coaching on creating psychological safety in your team by Ina Teves. So is it as being
Are we going to spin now?
yes, please.
Okay. Yay. Good luck.
And just a few reminders before we actually announce the winner. Please make sure that you've signed up through Hey Summit. If you have missed out our messages, we will send you another reminder tomorrow, and as well as the Zoom direct link so that you can join us on the next session tomorrow at 2:00. And if there are any questions to our panel,
Yay.
to send us an
Winner is
email as well. And see you tomorrow. So our winner is Rose Mario Leono. So we will get in touch with you on how you can claim the prize, and see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Be well.
Stay
Yes.
healthy. Stay well. Stay
Stay-
healthy.
Stay safe.
yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you for attending,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.